we lucky? Water flows from high up in the Cascades all the way down to the Sound. Small actions make a big difference. So fix those car leaks to keep motor oil out of the Sound. Because Puget Sound starts here, and here, and here, and here.
Did you know that 1/3 of Washington's forest fires are started by campfires and debris fires? You can make a difference, so let's talk about burning safety. A recreational fire is what you'll find at a campsite or in your backyard. It's pretty small and it's contained by a ring of metal, rocks, or a fire pit. A rule burn is still fairly small but bigger than a campfire. Think a pile of branches, leaves, and debris, and it's not contained by a ring, but by a fire break or bare soil. And a permit burn is fairly big, taller than a person. It could also be made up of multiple piles of debris, all burning at once. This type of burn requires, you guessed it, a permit. Before starting any of these types of fires, make sure there are no burn bans or burn restrictions in place. These regulations can change depending on the weather, the time of year, and your location. You can also practice simple safety measures like clearing the area around the burn and keeping a garden hose or bucket of water nearby. Always make sure your fire is completely out before you leave it. It just takes one tiny spark to cause a massive fire. To see burn bans, apply for a permit, get safety tips, and more, visit the Washington Department of Natural Resources Burn Portal. Together, we can keep our communities safe.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Be your own hero.
February 25th, 2025. The time is 9:31. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Yambe.
Here.
Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
Councilmember Denson.
Here.
Councilmember Ayala.
Here.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
You have 5 members present.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. You have before you the current agenda. Is there any changes, questions? Not seeing any. The agenda will stand as presented. Item number 4, approval of the minutes for February 11th, 2025. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it and make sure your name's spelled right. But other than that, if there's no other questions or corrections, then we will approve the minutes for February 11th, 2025. Okay, that's moving to why we're all here. And I appreciate the grouping of a lot of our, how should we say, power brokers for Pierce County in a panel forum. So with that, I will turn it over to staff and let Ms. Erica Hunt make the introductions.
Good morning. Thank you. Erica Hunt, Council staff. Today is the first of a series of panels that we discussed for the committee this year. And we're very happy to have these 3 individuals here with us, as well as Eric Johnson, who is present online. So I don't have much to say, but I will introduce our fearless leader, our Economic Development Director, Betty Capistani, and she will introduce the rest of our panelists.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Betty Capistani, Director of Economic Development for Pierce County, and I am joined today with 3 of my strong partners. I think if I were to be stranded on a desert island, these are the 3 I'd want to be with. So to my right is Andrea Ray, CEO of the Greater Tacoma Chamber of Commerce. And next is Michael Katze, CEO of the Economic Development Board, or you may know it as EDB. We get a lot of confusion between our organizations, but we work really closely together. And on screen, on vacation, so this shows you the dedication of economic development, is Executive Director of the Port of Tacoma, Eric Johnson.
Excellent. Well, I think we'd rather be where Mr. Johnson is than what we're dealing with this morning.
I can assure you that that is absolutely true. It is 80 degrees and clear blue skies at spring training in Arizona.
Yeah.
So.
Go ahead, rub it in. Okay. Well, there again, this is kind of a panel format, so we will work our way through it. But one of my ideas of getting everyone together was to have this committee understand each of your roles and how you work collaboratively to increase the economic impact to Pierce County, which I know you're all passionate about. So I will then turn it over to Betty, and you could kind of get things going, and we'll kind of let it roll organically and let everyone kind of explain how what they do, and then how you guys everyone works together. So we'll start out with you. Betty, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Morrell. So we're each going to do a little highlight of our organizations, and then we're going to kind of tell you our secret sauce and ways that we work together, because economic development is never done in a vacuum, and not any one of us can do the job without partners. And you're only seeing 4 here today. There are a myriad of other partners that help us with our economic development efforts. So from our Economic Development Department of Pierce County, we'll do the first slide, please. And this is, some of you have seen this, our new council members, this is a little bit for you, but our vision is a resilient and thriving community where businesses and residents prosper in an inclusive environment. Our mission, our department is dedicated to business success and opportunities in Pierce County. The department supports a business environment that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive, a foundation that improves the quality of life for all who live and work here. Our daily work advances entrepreneurship, job creation, workforce readiness, tourism, and the arts. You'll see also our core values. And really why we're doing it is we want an entrepreneurial climate for all, which supports jobs and entrepreneurship, fosters generational wealth, builds capacity for the future, builds sustainable partnerships across the ecosystem, which you're seeing today. And we know that with jobs, we can help grow family wealth, which leads to better health, education, and career outcomes for our residents. The next slide. So this is just a high-level visual, and you could hear from me all day long, so I'm not going to talk about each one of these bullets, but you'll see here's what we do in our Economic Development Department. We focus on business recruitment, business retention and expansion, so that's helping businesses grow, we focus on different business programs that are needed by our businesses, data and research, workforce programs, tourism, and arts and culture. So they all have a nexus that ties to investments and dollars in the Pierce County economy. The next slide. Our indicators of success are having a workforce that's prepared for the future, having entrepreneurship and small business resilience and sustainability. We know that about 85% of the jobs in Pierce County are small businesses. So really having a strong focus on helping them out, in addition to our primary large businesses that hopefully use our small businesses in their support networks. We want to continue to retain and grow primary jobs and investments. And our outcome, we want higher paying jobs and across growth sectors. So trying to also keep the sectors that are really strong in our economy that have been part of Pierce County, but to bring in new jobs in the new economy that we're seeing that are emerging across the globe and making sure that we can attract some of those investments. So the next slide really goes to show you that we have, and I probably have missed some, we do our work, and probably our secret sauce is we are conveners and collaborators, and we really, and everything we do, whether it's business retention, or if it's business recruitment, it's all a tailored concierge approach. And there are a variety of stakeholders, and while these arrows go this way, they should be going all around and all in circles. And the visual driving in today that I had was really, whether it's business retention or business recruitment, the old Plinko board. I don't know if anyone remembers a Plinko board, because we get leads from a whole variety of different spectrums that come in. And from that, asking a few key questions of what does the customer want, hits the lever that brings in different stakeholders around whatever they want. And then it goes all the way down, and hopefully when it's all done, we secure that business or investment in Pierce County. Wearing my unincorporated Pierce County hat, always want to make sure, can we bring it to unincorporated Pierce County, because that brings revenue and investment to our budget, and so we can do good things with those resources. But I also make sure that if we can't do it, that we make sure someone else in Pierce County can do it. And so we have a number of examples where that goes two-way, all the way across our spectrum. And I'm not going to list them all, but there you could see we have a ton of partners. And that partnership really in the pandemic grew to include a lot of our BIPOC partners that help us with a lot of our business retention and outreach and actually business startup through our Business Navigator program. And the numbers have been really impressive at their contacts. But our goal is, if we have a business, we want to retain it. It's a whole lot cheaper than recruiting. So that's the piece of our why it matters in the area. Some of you also saw last year we launched the Pivot to Pierce. So we do have now, that could be a whole separate program of, we've been starting to do more outbound targeted marketing ads in key sectors. I think all of us would agree some of these sectors are, they're part of our mainstay. Some have maybe weakened just based on market economy. We're very much market economy driven, but there's sectors for the future that we're also trying to attract. You may say when you're looking at this slide where you say, gosh, I don't see necessarily some of them, whether it's technology and even green and sustainable, they are across all industries, and there are separate pieces inside each of those clusters. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us. And making sure that the talent that lives in Pierce County or works in Pierce County, whether it's at the military and when they leave the military, that we're able to capture them and have great paying jobs for them to stay here in Pierce County. A couple other pieces in our database. We have 500,000 businesses that we connect to in a variety of different ways and resources that represent about 55,000 jobs. And you'll see in that list how they break down. And some of this information was before we even tracked if there are minority, veteran, or women-owned. So when you see other, that means we don't know, because that was before we were asking some of those questions. So just a couple highlights before I pass it on. Why it matters, if you take the piece of business recruitment, that we do a lot of business recruitment work with the EDB. They're probably one of our major partners in that area, along with cities and towns and other sources. But if you take 17 projects that were in Frederickson in the last 5 years that we actually had an involvement with, so we call those executive priority projects, and it's only because the secret sauce that Pierce County has, if it's an unincorporated Pierce County, we can help them work through the permit system and issues and working with, trying to figure out so they can get, because we know time is money and these investments are big and the investments could go anywhere. So we really work through that process and system to help them in the area. We don't change anything that's life safety. We just try to make sure that we can make their project work that works inside our system. But those 17 projects added $321 million in new assessed valuation to the county. Also, then, if you take private capital investment, so this is all new in the last 5 years, commercial and industrial investment that was permitted through Pierce County. We do a rolling average of how we show it, and you can see all this out in Socrata. It's about $26 million a month increase in private capital investment to the county. The other part, so the one-time fees, there's one-time fees of permits, which we don't have those dollars here, so that's another investment in Pierce County. And we do have those 17 companies I mentioned before in Frederickson put $17.5 million into the transportation infrastructure, the TIF. So just showing that those dollars. Now, what I haven't told you is any project, whether it's an expansion project or a recruitment project, they don't happen overnight. They take a lot of time, and sometimes even the outside the box that you some of council saw in December at your council meeting in Councilmember Morrell's district. We actually started. She heard about us at a AWB conference. We reached out to her in September of 22, and she will be in Pierce County, but it won't be probably till 26 or 27. Because it takes that long to move an advanced manufacturing company, and with her requirements, they wanted to own the land and the building. I mean, everyone's different of where they want to be, so it just shows that they don't happen overnight, but we work it, and everything will have a hiccup, and we try to undo the hiccups. The other part, I wanted to make sure that on the area of retaining jobs and growing jobs, the Chamber has been a key partner with us. And between Andrea and all of her people that she's worked with, we've actually launched or helped grow 553 companies. So if you look at that, that's like a whole bunch of large businesses, if you look at them collectively. And those companies have raised over $8 million of new capital. And these are our teeny tiny smallest companies. So that's a partnership that requires a lot of people at the table and people that probably never partnered together before the pandemic. And we're looking forward to that. We thank Council for ARPA resources, and we look forward to trying to make sure that continues out with private investment in the future. The other piece that the Chamber is really strong with us, and the EDB partners and the port partners, and that's on infrastructure. Because as you know, that's a piece of the equation, making sure we have infrastructure for our businesses, for our employees, and for our residents. But one that comes to mind was actually a data center bill in Olympia. And this was one that had been stuck, and the company kept talking to us. And I said, hey, you need to talk to the Chamber. They got a great lobbyist, and actually it went through, and that investment in Pierce County has been millions of dollars at the data center. A client that has now already reinvested, and it's an incredible story, but it's a story that we all partnered together, and we brought in WIDA from our State Economic Development Association. So there's a lot of partnership there. And then the last piece, while he's in the sun, really kudos go to the port. Because the Port of Tacoma had the foresight over 50 years ago to figure out how can we do development in Pierce County, what are opportunities, how do we do things better. And so the port actually is the one that invested in Frederickson, cleaned it up, and got it ready for then the private sector to come in and develop. So that's a wonderful story. Now, we don't necessarily in Pierce County have that cool big opportunity that way, but we also have opportunities maybe of redevelopment, infill, and so we always work in strategic partnership to try to figure out what are some of those opportunities. That's probably a whole lot of information for me, but I just want you to know that I really, really appreciate our strong partnership. And I think all of us have noticed that we do a lot of our work are people pushing the door open, coming to us from different ways. And so we're really trying to be more aggressive of opening other people's doors to say, hey, pivot, come to Pierce County, and we're a great place for you. So with that, I will hand it to Andrea.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Betty, and really appreciate being on this panel to talk about economic development. As Betty said, economic development is a team sport, and I am so grateful to have all of you amazing people on our team. I think I have a couple slides. If we,
we're out of order.
Michael's going to go first. Apologies. Like, those are my
That's all about economic development. We have to pivot. Let's pivot.
I'm like, wait, those aren't my slides.
How do you want to do this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
Thanks,
so we're going to go with Michael then.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having us all here today, and thank you for having me. Betty basically said it all, so I don't know what she's really left for the rest of us to say. But if we go to the next slide, I'll just make a couple of comments and sort of talk about some of the impacts that the EDB has had on the county. The EDB is dedicated to driving sustainable economic growth and job creation across Pierce County. Our mission is to attract, retain, and expand businesses and talent by forging strong public-private partnerships and implementing targeted 5-year work plans that address the region's evolving needs. This is the last year of our current 5-year work plan, and we are getting ready to start a new one in 2026. Next slide. We focus on key areas such as business retention and recruitment, cluster acceleration, marketing, and advocacy for sound public policy that promotes long-term economic growth and prosperity. By coordinating resources and expertise, we ensure that high-impact projects not only create direct economic benefits, but also stimulate broader community development. Our work translates into tangible outcomes, significant investments, increased employment, and a stronger local economy. We are here to help shape a prosperous future for Pierce County. Just some opening statements. If we go to the next slide. One of the questions was what makes us unique, and you have to excuse, this was a diagram I put together just late last week because I was trying to work out a way to explain what makes the EDB a little bit different to everybody else, and it took me a while.
You are a mystery to most of us.
We shouldn't be.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be. If you look at the basic overview of the economy, we have primary businesses which bring money into the economy. They do that by selling goods and services outside, or bringing tourism, like tourists coming in. They're bringing new money into the economy. The other part of the economy is what we call local businesses. They take that new money that comes into the economy and they circulate it. So the primary businesses that we generally work with are, in manufacturing, in tourism, tech and digital types of companies and sectors, maritime, logistics, trade, all those sorts of groups that are really about bringing money into the economy. What we see on the local businesses is that money coming in, either in profits and revenues, in salaries, wages, and then that money gets spent locally. That gets spent in restaurants, it gets spent in grocery stores, and that money continues to circulate. That money will eventually leak out of the economy. That's just the nature of the beast. So primary businesses really are important in that they keep feeding. It's like eating, you're sort of feeding the beast, so to speak. Otherwise, if you just had local businesses, that money eventually leaves the economy. The EDB primarily focuses on the left-hand side in that red line. We are primarily focused on retaining and expanding primary businesses that already exist here in Pierce County, and also recruiting primary businesses to Pierce County. We need to grow the economy, and we need to grow the revenues that are coming into the economy in order to feed the rest of the economy. If you don't have one, you don't have the other. If you only have primary businesses, then that money goes straight back out of the community. You lose it all. I used to live in a community that 80% of the money coming in leaked back out. So we weren't able to capture very much. So both are really important, but both take on very different roles within the economy, and also require different types of skills and expertise and assistance to support them. But when we talk about our uniqueness, the EDB primarily focuses on primary businesses. That's our main area of expertise. It doesn't mean we don't work with the other businesses, but our primary focus is on getting money into the economy here. If we take the next slide. So, as Betty was saying, economic development doesn't happen overnight, and we measure our successes in five-year blocks. The project Betty was talking about is a classic one. We're currently working on one now that I was working on when I was still at TPU as Economic Development Manager. We're close, but these things take 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. So in terms of the impact that we've had, we've done an economic impact analysis on the projects that the EDB was actively engaged in that we won over the last 5 years. These are some of those projects that we were actively engaged in. As you can see, they're in manufacturing, they're in tech, they're retail, they're logistics, life sciences. There's a vast array of businesses here that we've been involved with. If we go to the next slide. So based on those 12 projects alone, they directly created 2,874 jobs. They directly invested over $217 million in Pierce County. The beauty is that that's not where it stops, because when those businesses come in, they generate economic activity that has ripple effects through the economy. An additional 971 jobs were created because of those businesses coming in, and over $839 million in economic activity is generated from that activity, from that initial $217 million in investment. And I think that's important. It's not just the investment that counts, it's the ripple effects through our economy, and that's what we're looking for. If we go to the next slide. Why, I mean, if that's not a good enough reason to, be excited about economic development, in terms of a return on investment for our investors, we are funded through a number of public and private entities that commit dollars to us to do the work that we do. Pierce County's investment alone, for every dollar that Pierce County invested in the EDB over the last 5 years, you see $14.60 in new tax annually. The state of Washington gets a higher return in tax revenues of almost $24. And when we look at the corporate profit that is actually generated from that, we also see for every dollar that our private sector partners invest in us, they see over $24 in corporate profits returned to them annually. And these revenues will continue each year until those businesses no longer operate here. So it's not just a one and done. You're going to see a continued increase excuse me, in those tax dollars and those corporate profits coming into businesses here in Pierce County. Next slide. Oh, and that's it. No,
but one thing that really is a secret sauce that you may not be aware of, when companies come, a lot of times they don't want people to know who they are. And so that's why the EDB is a great partner, and a lot of our pieces, when they're still trying to vet things through, they're competing. We're competing with other states, so they go to the EDB, and we all sign non-disclosure documents. So none of that gets released to the public until we've actually secured the company and they come in for permits. So that's something that businesses don't. They don't want everyone to know where they're looking until they make that decision, because we're talking about companies that don't make instant decisions. The number used to be it took 65 or 70 years before a business would make a big move. So that's a secret sauce the EDB has for us as a partner in economic development.
And to build on that, the other thing that we're really good at is convening partners to make sure projects get to be where we need them to be. Current example is Project Poppy 3, the third version of it. Again, we're in about four years on this. We were able to bring the foreign company into a meeting with the developers and real estate brokers. We had the governor's international trade representative there. We had the Department of Commerce in that meeting. We had Impact Washington. They're a manufacturing company, so Impact Washington is able to help them design their production lines for maximum efficiency. And we had the utilities in there, PSC, TPU. We had the county in there, and we had all the partners required to meet on that one day so that they could answer all their questions. And that made a huge difference. We brought everyone in. The next day, the president flew out from Japan in his private jet and took a look at the site that we had picked, we had looked at the day before. And his staff were able to answer all his questions because we were all in that one room together. We were able to bring them all together. That's what the EDB does really well, other than just our strong strengths in recruitment and retention. But our ability to convene makes a huge difference, and I believe we hopefully will see something before the end of the year on that project. But that's a big thing. And again, reiterating what Betty said, we don't do this on our own. We have so many economic development partners, workforce partners, Impact Washington, cities, towns, the county. We all work together. We meet regularly together to talk about what we're doing, what needs to be done, issues, successes. So we don't just work together, we actually meet together on a regular basis, monthly. And in fact, through COVID, we met weekly. But Pierce County has an amazing history of collaboration that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I think it's our secret sauce. Usually when you get into different areas, economic development organisations and cities and counties like to keep their own turf. This is mine, we're going to go for it, even if we have to compete with you. And that doesn't make sense. The attitude here in Pierce County is, if you win, I win. And if I win, you win. And that level of collaboration and partnership really changes how we operate. We're not in silos. We do what we have to do, and we bring in everyone that we need to get the job done.
Yeah, thank you. I think what we'll do is we'll hold questions to the end, so write them down because you'll probably forget them by the time we open it up. But anyway,
We'll go to Andrea.
let's move to Andrea.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it again. As you know, my colleagues, continue to reiterate, I do think our secret sauce is in our ability to come together in collaboration and partnership. This is unique to Pierce County, that we do have strong public-private partnerships, right? So private, with the Chamber and the EDB, serving the business community and being independent nonprofits. And then, of course, the port as a public agency also focused on economic development. And, of course, the county. That is our North Star, I think, for all of us, is prosperity for all. And so it's really an honor to continue to do the work together and be here today to talk a little bit about how we are unique and how we come together. The Chamber is an independent nonprofit. We were founded 140 years ago on the belief that we are better and stronger together. And we continue to provide support for businesses large and small. Next slide, please. Our vision is to make the South Sound the most equitable, inclusive, and thriving place to do business in Washington State. Next slide. And we do that through our impact. We are a member-driven organization. Our organization is funded by independent investment, from our business community. As Betty mentioned, most of Pierce County businesses, 85% are small businesses. Absolutely most of the investment and members of our organization are also small business. We provide free confidential technical assistance to all businesses in Pierce County regardless of membership, because we know how important small business is to the fabric of our local business community. We welcomed over 100 new businesses, generating, hundreds of new jobs this past year. We have some stats, up there from our 2024 impact report. At these businesses, again, as Betty mentioned, and jobs have real economic impact. Again, the PCBA program that we partner with, that's $8 million in new capital being generated alone. And that does not include the other businesses and the technical assistance and the growth that we continue to track as well. Next slide, please. More specifically, what we do, advocacy. So as the voice for business, the Chamber works at all levels of government, representing business interests, ensuring the South Sound remains a desirable place to grow, build a business, and also to live, work, and play. I think oftentimes when we're talking about economic development and business growth, there is a sentiment that you can have a strong, thriving business community, but that comes at the cost of quality of life. That is not true. These are not mutually exclusive ideas. And in fact, we know from doing business attraction and business retention, one of our largest unique selling points for Pierce County for business relocation is the high quality of life. And so continuing to invest in the quality of life ensures that we are able to continue to grow our business community, which is huge. Thanks so much, to Betty for also mentioning that data center project. That was, again, multi-year project that is yielding great economic development, throughout, not just, Puyallup, but throughout all of Pierce County, which is really exciting. Leadership, right? We know how important leadership is, and we invest in leadership programs and goals to remain responsive in an incredibly dynamic market. Like we know, we are need to be responsive to what those market forces are, and we know that we need to be investing, in leadership to be able to respond to what those dynamic, considerations are. So from supporting entrepreneurs through business training to connecting businesses, with skilled workers, we can continue to strengthen not only our organization's ability to be responsive to the needs of our members, but also continue to grow and strengthen sustainability for the future. And then, of course, relationships. So we talked a lot about this, and Michael and Betty have said this as well. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust, which is why it is so important that we continue to connect and convene, and that we continue to work and build bridges to have those connections and to build those relationships, not just within the economic ecosystem, of economic development, but more broadly, within and through community. So a lot of the work that the Chamber does is we do a lot of referrals. We have a number of resources, directly to enhance and support businesses. And part of the work that we do is having some of the signature events that we do, right? So connecting and convening, providing resources, providing relationships, opportunities to grow in relationship, with each other and within, and throughout community is really key to the work that we're doing as a nonprofit service organization. Next slide. Part of the work that we also do, again, in addition to connecting and convening, providing free confidential technical assistance, providing opportunities to, grow in relationship. We have some specific programs that focus on the unique advantages of Pierce County. One of those is the Manufacturing Industrial Council for the South Sound. We know that manufacturing and manufacturing jobs are some of the lowest barrier, highest earning potential jobs that we have in the state of Washington. And the more that we can invest in manufacturing, we know that that helps us get a little bit closer to that North Star of prosperity for all. And so the MIC works very diligently on preserving industrial land and also maritime opportunities and supporting manufacturing within the South Sound and then throughout Washington State. I think there's also, again, I'll just, push back a little bit against some, perceptions that, manufacturing jobs, are not green jobs. That could not be further from the truth. I think as we look at the fastest growing industry sectors and the fastest growing manufacturing jobs within Pierce County, it absolutely is within, clean tech and the green economy. The other work that we focus on, again, huge in Pierce County, is the creative economy, supporting the creative economy. SpaceWorks Tacoma is a collaborative partnership with the city of Tacoma, helping to support creative entrepreneurs. Again, we talk about investing in entrepreneurship. We talk about supporting a high quality of life, arts and culture, that ability for community to connect, find belonging. So much of that is done, throughout and for, our creative economy. And so whether it's art installations, it's business foundation cohorts, to help support creative entrepreneurs. This is a very vital program that has been in existence for over 14 years and has graduated over 400 businesses to continue to serve our local economy. Talked a little bit earlier about leadership, just how important leadership is. Again, leadership doesn't just happen either, just same as economic development. We run the Business Leadership Academy in cooperation with PLU. This allows for mid-career professionals to really gain the skills and expertise to take that next level in their leadership. So again, the more that we can invest in our local talent, ensure that our local talent has the skills and the resources available to succeed here at home, we're able to continue to retain that talent. I know we talk a lot about, again, the unique advantage, of Pierce County. We are the makers and the movers for the state of Washington. Again, manufacturing, logistics, transportation, infrastructure, But talent also lives here. And so when businesses are considering relocating, being able to, showcase that high quality talent that is here is huge to that work. And so we really do invest in leadership programs. Betty also mentioned the Pierce County Business Accelerator. This has been a phenomenal program, as she mentioned. $8 million in new capital, over 553 businesses. An exceptional way that we can continue to invest in Pierce County, invest in entrepreneurship. Again, the Chamber focuses a lot, and I liked Michael's slide with EDB focusing a lot on primary employers. The Chamber focuses a lot on local business primarily. And so when we're focusing on local business, we're focusing on small business. We know that when we invest in entrepreneurs, that business, that family, will make 19% more than the median income. That is, I've never gotten a 19% raise, right? So when we are focused on that level of investment, again, that money comes back into the economy, it recirculates into the economy. We guard against, as Michael said, that leakage that just kind of naturally happens, within local economies, and that's huge for us. So again, that work is paramount. And then, of course, Kiva, that is a program to help provide zero interest, small loans. The average loan size is around $8,000, but businesses can borrow up to $15,000. And sometimes that loan amount of $5,000 to $15,000 really is the make or break, for a small business. That allows them to invest in a new website to connect to their customers. We saw during COVID how difficult it was for some small business that didn't have an online presence to continue business operations. And so sometimes it's updating website, it's fixing a refrigerator that has broken down, it's making those smaller investments to really grow the business. And again, so much of the work that we do collaboratively together is, yes, welcoming and opening new businesses, but there is that critical juncture with, how does a small business become a medium-sized business, and how does a medium-sized business become a large business? And so much of the work that we do together is helping businesses navigate those challenges and build those bridges so that they can do that with confidence. Kiva, access to capital, is a way that we're also able to do that. And that... Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, perfect. And of course, and thank you, Betty, so much. We also manage the World Trade Center Tacoma. We talked a lot about, and Michael mentioned, business attraction, with foreign investment. But it goes the other way as well, right, where we have local businesses that are very interested in expanding to foreign markets. We know that this is a way that we can, again, exponentially increase, the local economy here is by growing and expanding to foreign markets. We also know, again, it's a dynamic economy, it's a dynamic political landscape. Some of those things are hard to navigate. And so the World Trade Center Tacoma, Michael Fowler, is exceptional in his ability to help businesses grow and succeed, to continue to expand to foreign markets and maximize local investment, here at home. So yes, World Trade Center Tacoma, thank you, Betty, so much. I appreciate the opportunity to highlight that partnership and that work as well. It's critical. Thank you.
So now I think we're going to go to the sunny gentleman on the screen, Eric Johnson, the Executive Director of the Port of Tacoma.
Thank you very much, Betty. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you for allowing me to participate remotely in the meeting. I appreciate that very much. I am in a sunny spot today, but I'm glad to be able to participate. And by the way, I do want to call out Council Members Ayala and Yambe. This is my first time seeing you in your new positions or being before you, so congratulations, and I'm looking forward to working with the two of you as well as all of your colleagues on the County Council. So I'm the Executive Director of the Port of Tacoma, and I'm bringing up the final leg here of our four-person relay. So go ahead and move to the next slide, please. The port. I'm going to start with just a real overview of what we are, and then I'm going to dive into some specific projects that we're working on that are relevant to all of us and that you may not know a lot about. So we're publicly elected 5 commissioners. Most states don't do it that way. We do it that way. We're a little over 100 years old, and those are our 5 elected commissioners. Of note, I will tell you that the Port of Tacoma has one thing in common, well, many things, but one big thing in common with Pierce County, and that is that we are the only countywide government in Pierce County, except for the county itself. Obviously, the county is countywide, but the Port of Tacoma is the only countywide government that exists in the county besides you. So that's something that kind of makes us stand out a little bit. And go ahead and move to the next the next slide, please. So our operations today are primarily focused on the tide flats in Tacoma. You all knew that. Betty mentioned that we invested in Frederickson 50 years ago. That was an economic development home run. We purchased hundreds of acres out there with the express purpose of selling them piece by piece over the years to companies who wanted to own land and build manufacturing. We did not want to sell land in the tide flats. We're a buyer in the tide flats, not a seller. But we wanted to be able to have a place in the county where we could attract those businesses, and it worked. But we sold the last piece of land that we owned in Frederickson about 3 years ago. And so we're out of land, and so we are down to an infill and redevelopment play. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But we've got over 100 leases, warehouses, logistics, manufacturing industries, terminal operations. Most of our marine cargo operations are managed by the Northwest Seaport Alliance, not all of them, but most of them. That's a partnership, commercial partnership between the Port of Seattle and the Port of Tacoma. And their primary reason for existing is to focus on container traffic, which is one of our major lines of business. It's the first thing you think of. That's what all the cranes do. But we also have other lines of business. Automobiles, we're a major import facility for automobiles from Asia, especially Korean automobiles. We're a major import center for Kia and Hyundai, but lots of other cars too. So you'll see lots of cars coming into the port if you drive through. We also do grain. You've all driven by the grain elevators on Schuster Parkway. This is a busy time of year. You see a lot of the ships anchored out in the bay. Those are usually grain ships, dry bulk ships. The primary export commodity these days is soybeans. We also export wheat and corn and lentils and so on, but the last year or so, about the 85% of the dry bulk that's being exported is soybeans from the upper Midwest. And then we have break bulk cargo. That's stuff that doesn't fit in a container, and you saw a picture, I think, in Michael's slide of a bunch of construction equipment like backhoes and things like that. We export a lot of industrial machinery that's manufactured in the upper Midwest. John Deere, Caterpillar, those kinds of things. So construction equipment and farm equipment, we export a lot of that. And then we are a strategic military seaport. Break bulk cargo includes military cargo. And we don't advertise it a lot, but we are one of the few seaports in the country that's been designated by the Department of Defense as a strategic military seaport. There's no mystery as to why. Joint Base Lewis McChord is one of our largest bases in the country. One of the reasons it's so large is because of its proximity to the Port of Tacoma. If you press the military, they'll tell you, yeah, we invest there because we're close to the Port of Tacoma, and that's a key facility for us. So heavy things move by water. Most of the military cargo is heavy, and so they move it through our terminals, and we're proud of that distinction. So the last time we counted, we support 42,000 jobs, a little over 42,000 jobs. That number's a few years old. We're updating it right now. We expect it to actually increase. So you'll see a new number later this year. We just started the process of hiring the consultants to update those numbers. But that's a big number, and we're one of the primary employment centers for the whole region. Next slide. So I want to talk about a couple of things that we're doing that you may not know about. I think you've heard of some of them, but I'm going to give you some details. I'm not going to talk about everything that's going on at the port, but I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The first one is what we call the Early Business Center. That's named after a former port commissioner, a longtime community booster named Bob Early. If you look in the upper right there on that picture, you see that area that's circled in the red. That's the old Navy shipyard. The Navy built this facility, believe it or not, in World War I. It was an extremely busy shipyard in World War II. You can find historical pictures of aircraft carriers being built out there. It was a major employment center for the whole area. There was actually a trolley car that ran down 11th Street daily. There wasn't enough parking for all the people that worked there, so they had to use streetcars to ferry people back and forth to the shipyard. Those facilities are a key water-dependent infrastructure for us. They've got rail connections and water, obviously access to deep water. We want to keep that as a manufacturing, water-dependent manufacturing center. The challenge that we have is the infrastructure is old. Most of those buildings, not all of them, but most of them are 70 years old or even older. The large one that you see on the right-hand side there is going to be demolished this year. We have to take it down. The other one, the other big one out there, is going to come out before too long too. Those buildings they're old wooden buildings. They're past their useful life, and so we have a major investment challenge out there trying to figure out how to rebuild that infrastructure in a cost-effective way and maintain the jobs that are out there. We've got several water-dependent businesses. Safe Boats, you saw their logo earlier. Trident Seafood is out there. Motive Power Marine is out there. Silverback Marine. We want to keep those. We want to grow them. We're doing a planning process for how we're going to reconfigure that area, and we've got a bunch of environmental cleanups out there. You can imagine most of the property down here is contaminated. It's not all highly contaminated. This area is. That the old Hooker Chemical Plant is that brown area that's just north of that red circle. We don't own it. That's owned by Occidental. There's a plume of contamination that goes under our property. It's quite a long story, but developing out here is expensive, and the businesses that we're trying to foster and sustain are low margin businesses. So the marine manufacturing industry competes with the Gulf, and they can't afford super platinum priced leases. So we've got an economic challenge out there of trying to figure out how to put in investments that don't cost a ton of money so that we can afford to lease them to the companies that we want it to be manufacturing out there. I'm going to loop back to manufacturing in just a second. Meanwhile, the Blair Waterway, which is the big waterway down the middle, in the upper slide there, it's towards the right. It's the one that the container ship is headed straight into. The lower picture shows that's a big evergreen container ship headed to the green terminals at the end. We have to deepen it. Ships keep getting bigger. It's 51 feet deep right now. That's deep by most standards. That's deep water, but it's not deep enough. We've got to go to 57 feet to allow for the ever-increasing size of the ships. One thing that you may not know is a lot of our cargo, the containerized cargo, is heavy because it's agricultural. So frozen meat, chicken, things like that weighs a lot. And so the ships that leave the port tend to weigh more than the ships that enter the port. So a container ship full of tennis shoes and flat screen TVs doesn't weigh as much as an export ship that gets reloaded with agricultural products. And so what we're really deepening the channel for is for exports, which is something that everybody, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, we all want more American production, and that means more exports. So we're deepening that to 57 feet. That project has already started. If you go out there today, you'll see dredging that is starting in the berthing areas and some of the shoal. We've got a little shoal problem in one area. And then we really start into that project in earnest next year. One of the things that's cool about this project is that sediment, most of which is clean, by the way. You might think that that's dirty, contaminated soil. It's not. The project that took it down to 51 feet about 20 years ago took out most of the contaminated material. We don't have the kind of waste handling practices and stormwater that we used to. So there's not been significant recontamination of those sediments. Over 90%, probably 95% of the sediments that are coming out of there are clean. We test everything. If it's not clean, it goes upland. But the clean sediments, we're going to use a lot of them to create a habitat area over off of Marine View Drive. It's not in this picture, but we're going to be creating a project that I can tell you about another day that's going to be really cool. Part of it protects Marine View Drive from getting eroded by the waves. Marine View Drive right now is being pummeled by Mother Nature. And we're going to be putting a shallowing area out there, covering up some of the wood waste from the old log rafts. And we worked with the tribe. The tribe's been very cooperative, very helpful. We're hoping for a really neat habitat enhancement project, which is going to be a benefit of this navigation project. So move to the next slide real quick. The other project that's going on, which relates to what I just talked about with the marine manufacturing, is the Newport Maritime Center. So we own about 20 acres. Actually, we own more than that, but we're developing 20 acres on the east side of the Theophos Waterway, along the north end of the Wheeler Osgood. This is basically straight across from downtown. This is just south of 11th Street by the Murray Morgan Bridge. The picture on the lower left shows what it looks like today. For the most part, it's an empty brown area. It's blighted by any definition of blight. It's got an old rail spur that goes through it to the tank yard, the tank farm up at the north end of the Theophos. We've partnered with the Tacoma School District to create a skills center for maritime trades. So we're going to be putting our headquarters is going to move over there. The picture on the lower right is an artist's rendering or an architect's rendering. If you go out there today, that's what it doesn't look like that today, but it's going to pretty soon. The building on the left is the Newport administrative headquarters. The building on the right is the Tacoma School District's Maritime Skills Center, and they've gotten that designation now from the state. It's going to be similar to like the School of the Arts or the SAMI School, where any kid in Pierce County, no matter what school district you go to, will be eligible to attend. And we're going to specialize on career technical jobs in the maritime sector, and so that's the whole suite of maritime jobs, from tugboat crews to logistics and trade operations. So we're hoping that'll be a really exciting thing. It's going to crosswalk, we think, to some of the projects that I just talked about at the Early Business Center. So if we've got boat building and remanufacturing out there, this is the place where we're going to train the workforce to work there. So it's a great partnership between us and the Tacoma School District. I can go on and on about the partnership there. It's been terrific. You've heard Michael and Andrea and Betty talk about the way that we partner together, and it's true, we do. We talk weekly, sometimes daily, the group of us, and compare notes and give each other tips and heads up on this and that kind of thing. So this project, we had the groundbreaking last month. The work is well underway. If you drive by there, you will be able to see it out your window, actually. There's a huge amount of work going on down there right now. The cleanup is done. We did a cleanup. There was contamination there. Wasn't super bad by Tide Flats standards, but there was old industrial soil that we hauled out, replaced it with clean soil. We're rebuilding the rail spur because that rail spur is really old. We're going to have a really new modern crossing there for the people getting in and out of the center. The walkway is going to be, the shoreline is going to be completely redeveloped with a walkway, a human-powered boat ramp, like a kayak launch. We're going to be putting in a dock for boat traffic. We probably will partner with the Youth Marine Foundation, which is just up the way, because they've got that great program with the Sea Scouts and teaching all the kids about how to get out on the water and understand the waterfront. So this is just a really great economic development investment opportunity that we're infilling in this old underutilized site, and we're just super excited about it. Construction on this project will be done for the school district in the summer of 26, next summer, which is really fast. They're planning to be open for the 26 school year in September. We're hoping to move in January of 27, and we're on track. Knock on wood. These things, have a tendency to get derailed, but so far we are right on track and even under budget a little bit. So this is proceeding very, very effectively right now. And I think I'm done. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you.
That's it. That's my last slide.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you taking time off your vacation to join this panel. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. And you can figure out who's going to take lead at this. I'm not going to really direct it towards anyone. But first question is, how does your organization partner with other businesses for recruitment and retention? That's kind of like you all mentioned that it's more your time is better invested in retention and expansion than it is trying to bring new companies in. Do you partner with cities, JBLM, the tribe? How do you guys work all that? Is anyone siloed out there? I'll start with Betty.
I think we probably all partner different. If you're talking on retention, something through the pandemic when we started our navigators, our business navigators, with our BIPOC organizations, and also with Business Impact Northwest and PLU and APEC is APEC now, right? APEC. So, and just our year-end report. So this is the third year that they've been partnering together. Those navigators, there's 7 of them that go out that are trained with business resources, have made over 3,000 visits to 1,500 different companies. Then they've come back in, they meet with us, they have a kind of a dash line report into Sarah on our team, and they talk about how to help their businesses, what kind of programs to put on, and it's just organically grown to really cool opportunities. We also hear their top, they have to turn all the data in of the top business challenges, and we've seen them move over time, and also the top referrals, because there's a lot of connectivity between them. So that's been a huge piece of our retention efforts, in addition to strategic calls that we make both with the EDB on outreach to businesses that we brought here, because we want to keep them here, and we've seen in some cases those businesses continue to reinvest in Pierce County. So that's a lot of our people call us. I'm having an issue. Having an issue. Mm-hmm. Or another city may say, hey, we can't keep this business based on JBLM, the clear zone, how else can we keep, if we can't keep them in Lakewood, how else can we keep them in Pierce County? Mm-hmm. So they come in a variety of different ways, and I think, like I said, that Plinko board, depending on the issue, strategic partners form around that, with our goal of always keeping a business growing and prosperous in Pierce County.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add for the chamber, right? I mean, when we track our time for economic development, it is absolutely 80% business retention and 20% business expansion. And again, I think that's also primarily just in the nature of, most of our members are, again, small businesses, and so they're navigating those challenges. And as Betty said, depending on what that challenge is, then we come up with a solution that's unique to that business. So sometimes it is relocating. We're working with a business right now, again, small business, unfortunately, had a death in the family, trying to figure out like how to sell that business, or do they keep that business in the family? What does that look like? So depending on what the unique challenge is, it's a referral or it's an expansion to partners. And so I would say for every, retention or attraction opportunity, there's a unique, solution pathway. But because of our partnership and because of our network and because we move at the speed of trust and we've built those relationships over time, we're able to do that so much more effectively and so much more efficiently, together as a team.
And even our PCBA that we partner with Andrea on at the Chamber, 87% of those were startups. Yeah. Said they're growing now. These were really, really micro. They had to be under $235,000 a year. They're tiny. I mean, some of those startups were like $9,000 of revenue. Mm-hmm. And only 13% were just starting, brand new, out of the box, got an idea. So that was another great example of business retention and expansion.
Yeah, and with the EDB, in traditional economic development, 70% of new jobs and new investment come from existing businesses. So you want to make sure that you look after the businesses you already have. That is your foundation to build from. If you lose that base, it's very hard to bring in new businesses on top of that. You need a strong base. And so any economic development organization is going to have a very strong business retention expansion program. It's just the nature of the beast. It's where you have to spend a lot of your time. It's much easier to keep a business than bring a new business in. So we have our investors include the county, cities, and other organizations, including the port. And with them, we have contracts that require us to do a certain number of BRE visits every year. And that allows us to actually tap into those businesses, find out how they're doing, what are their pain points, is there anything we can do to help them get through those pain points. And also, we're looking for red flags. We're looking for red flags that tell us this is a business that looks like it might be shutting down. This looks like it's a business that might be leaving. So if we can pick up on those red flags and work out why those red flags exist, we may be able to address some of those issues that they have, and then hopefully in turn keep that business operating or keep it in Pierce County. So it's a critically important part of what we do.
I appreciate that, Mike. And we do surveys, data collection, right? So that's also, critically important to the business retention work that we do. And as you said, in doing the data collection and doing the surveys and doing those visits, trends can develop, right? And then, right, that's what helps form some of our policy work too, right? And so as we're continuing to gather data, gather information, and then put that data, put that information, into action that can serve, our business community, really quickly.
Eric, do you have any comments on that?
Well, I'll just add that, we spend a lot of time investing in infrastructure in order to retain the businesses that we have. In fact, it's most of our capital budget, whether that's marine terminal investments at the big container terminals, which are profoundly expensive, and we're constantly trying to keep those modernized and up to date. The deepening project I mentioned is a perfect example. That's designed to retain the marine terminal business that we have and possibly grow it. And then the early business center, all those investments out there are designed to, first of all, keep those water-dependent businesses, the safe boats and the motive power marines and those folks here, and create a context for them to expand and thrive. But we have another challenge that you as policymakers should be aware of, and I don't have a simple answer for you. But as we grow in the tide flat zone, as we focus on water-dependent businesses, because there's so little waterfront industrial land, we have a challenge in moving businesses that are industrial but not water dependent, and finding new homes for them in Pierce County. So a lot of places, a lot of the businesses in the tide flats are there not because they're water dependent, because they're industrial, and that was industrially zoned property, so that's where they went. And as we expand in some of our water dependent industries, we need to find places to put these other valued companies. And Pierce County does not have enough industrial property. And we need to be creative about, first of all, protecting what we've got, but if possible, even utilizing it more effectively. As a personal opinion, I will tell you the port hasn't said this, and my commission hasn't said this, but I think the Denali Valley is woefully underutilized. I think the Denali Valley it's industrially zoned, it's right in the middle of town, it's got great transportation roads and a rail line right through it, but we're not utilizing that thing like the way that we should. So that's one of the challenges I have, is moving oftentimes small businesses who we want to keep and we like them, but we don't want them to move to some place that's far away. We want to keep them here. So we spent time on that with my colleagues that are sitting in front of you right there. That's just one of the challenges that we've got in Pierce County. And we just went through the sub-area planning process, which I think all heard about, with the city and the county and the tribe and the port, to try to ensure that our industrial properties in the tide flats stay protected.
Okay, thank you for that, Eric. I am going to move to economic clusters. What economic clusters are we currently working together to support within Pierce County?
From my perspective, you can add if I missed anything. We have advanced manufacturing, medical, and really medical, military, and global trade and logistics have been our bread and butter in Pierce County. Aerospace, and we see when we talk about when you bring a company in or a company does well, all the support industries, and Michael has some great numbers on the aerospace cluster in Pierce County. We look for technology and whatever that emerging technology. Hopefully it's got an alignment with our talent on the base. Like Andrea said, talent lives here. So whether that's cybersecurity, what are the things of the future pieces, and then also green and sustainable, of which there are different things that are emerging. And I remember years ago actually being on the Prosperity Partnership for PSRC, and they picked they picked 5 clusters that were already in the greater region, and the 6th cluster was something for the future, and that was green and sustainable, clean technology. So really, we're seeing more and more things coming along that path. And we're seeing a lot of companies. So we have even warehouses in Frederickson that are ready for solar. They're built for solar once all the marketplace is all there. So there's a lot of cool things happening in that green and sustainable. So those are the ones that I had as our big picture that we do a lot of work collaboratively on.
Yeah, and I think maritime, maybe you didn't mention that, but aerospace traditionally has been worked around Boeing and aviation in particular, but I think there's some great opportunities that we need to be looking at in terms of space, new space, looking at the private, additional satellites. Half the satellites orbiting the Earth right now are made in Kent. Mm-hmm. There's opportunities as Kent starts to get built out, and there's the pressure on them. I think there's an opportunity for us to see some expansion of those industries. You've got SpaceX, Blue Origin, other companies like that I think we can actually build on the expertise we have in our aerospace sector, and we can actually start to take some more of those. And again, I'm looking at industries that are future-proofed, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of legacy industries will leave over time, but we're looking at industries that are actually going to be around in 20, 30, 40 years and form the basis of our economy going forward. And I think that's where we need to be looking. So we need to be looking for those types of industries that will do that for us.
Eric, do you have any comment pertaining to clusters?
I'll second what Michael and Betty just went over. We're focused on the marine sector, obviously maritime and logistics, transportation. That's our bread and butter, and that's what we continue to focus on.
Okay. Then I will follow up with one last question before I turn it over to the committee for questions. And you knew I was going to ask this. What challenges does Pierce County face in attracting desired clusters? What can the county do to address those barriers?
I'll start, and then I'm sure Michael will chime in. The challenge is we don't have, when we're competing for a lot of those jobs, if they come from a site locator or they come from the state, and let's say we have the land, and let's say we have an alignment with the industry, we may not have anything else besides we're a great place to do business. We partner with you. We can help work you through the permit system to give you a timely, predictable outcome. But we don't do so things that we compete with all across the states and across the globe. We don't give land away. We don't give any of those pieces. So if you flip it to an opportunity, not sure if there's an opportunity to incentivize certain kinds of jobs. So we have incentivized advanced manufacturing a bit in unincorporated Pierce County, but are there other ways that we can incentivize? And I don't have an answer what that means, but trying to figure out other pieces of incentives that make that a good opportunity, because we can say we have no corporate tax. We can say a few of those things, but that doesn't make a huge difference on the end.
No. We have such a great product. Pierce County is such an amazing place for a business to operate. We have a strong transportation infrastructure. We have rail, we have roads, highways, we have an airport, we have a port. We've got a lot of skilled talent here. There's nothing wrong with that product. But as Betty said, when we're competing with California, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Vietnam, China, Germany, those places, there are times when We just don't have the tools available to us that those other players have. Other states take economic development very seriously, and they put a lot of resources towards making sure they get wins. You know, one of the biggest complaints I've got at the moment is that, you know, our Department of Commerce accepts RFIs from site selectors who are working for companies looking for a place for their client to locate. They received 34 RFIs last year. You know, Texas had probably 700 wins. And again, Pierce County is not Texas, but the fact is that Texas does a lot more puts a lot more towards economic development than the state of Washington does. And so we're not getting the attention that a lot of other states get, and we're losing a lot of projects because we don't have the economic development tools that other states do.
And I'll just add, so you hit the nail on the head, I think, and to put a finer point on it, it's costs. And this is not a Pierce County issue, this is a state of Washington issue. So when we're looking at predictability and certainty and the cost to do business in Washington State, we are in, as Michael said, competition all day, every day, not just with other counties, not just with other states, but internationally. We have absolutely a global economy. And so when we are looking at and we are being, you know, competitive with business attraction, you know, through other states, we need to be able to put together a package that talks about what the other advantages are when we know it probably is going to cost a little bit more to do business in Washington State. But here's the other advantages, you know, that we have to help, you know, balance that out. But when you are a site selector and you are just looking at the bottom line, that can be difficult, and it is a challenge to be able to then tell that story. I firmly believe that once we are able to tell our story, then we have an opportunity. But we are absolutely pushing up against a state of Washington issue with just the cost of doing business in Washington State. And as Betty mentioned, we're not able to provide incentives in the ways that other states are.
And it's not just incentives, because incentives are often what makes the difference between two equal projects,
sure.
Two equal sites. So, you know, we could have, you know, a site, someone else could have a site, they're both equal, they could go to either one. This one offers $15 million in terms of incentives they'll build you utilities for you, they'll give you the land for free. And we go, well, we can't do that. So, well, where do you go? You go here. It's just basic business sense, right? But every challenge brings an opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I think what I'm certainly going to be focusing on as we move forward is looking for those businesses, being proactive, not waiting for the Department of Commerce to send us 30 RFIs that most of them don't fit what we can actually do here. Mm-hmm. Actually being proactive and looking for businesses and going out and recruiting them, ones that fit where we are and we know actually makes sense. And that will actually take us out of that game of companies comparing us with others and going through that site selection process. Mm-hmm. We will actually go after them and try and recruit them because they will fit what we have.
And I appreciate that, Michael, right? Because not every business is going to be a good fit, right? And so absolutely. Recognizing that, you know, our focus and our work really does need to be, you know, collectively, focused on finding those right businesses and the good fit, and that knowing that if it is just about, you know, the bottom line and it's not about, you know, the triple bottom line we talk a lot about, people, planet, and profit, then maybe it's not a good fit.
Yeah, and I'm just going to do a follow. Eric, do you have a comment?
No, I'll agree with what my colleague said. I'll add a couple of things. One of the big advantages we have a couple of big advantages here. We are a high cost area, and we lose opportunities as a result of it sometimes. But we also have pretty good transportation infrastructure, decent housing stock. Housing is relatively affordable compared to other areas of the country. That maybe not everybody would agree with that, but we're not King County. And we've got a good workforce. We've got 4 community colleges and 3 universities in Pierce County, which is an extraordinary wealth of higher education job training opportunities. We've also got our utilities are excellent. We have got lots of water, and we've got carbon-free power. And I use that to market, and I'm succeeding sometimes in companies who are interested in carbon-free power and lots of water and good infrastructure. So we've got some things to work with, but we sometimes we do lose sometimes to states that have lower cost of land and lower cost of labor. There's no question about it. But I try to focus on the workforce. I was surprised when I got this job how important workforce is to a lot of the employers. I knew it was important. I didn't realize how important it was. Having a stable supply of reliable, educated, trained workers. If you don't have that, you're not in the game, but we have it. Yeah. So,
and that's been an interesting flip in economic development over the last 10 years, maybe even 15, is that as economic developers, we would actually chase companies, bring them, recruit them in, and then the workers would come in to work at those facilities. Now it's been flipped on its head, and companies are now looking to locate where the talent is, not the other way around. So we can attract talent and we can retain the talent we have. We actually have a good we have something to sell companies because that's what they're interested in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think those will be the questions that I have. Now I will turn it over to the committee, and we've already got some queued up, so let's do committee member Yambe.
Mr. Chair, and thank you to the panelists for being here. It's been very informative and very enlightening. Gosh, I have all these different questions, so let me just start with one. Okay, so the state share. This is on the Economic Development Board. So, Michael, the state share is at 23.86 for the return on the investments, versus the county share at 14.6. The corporate is 24. But the state seems awfully higher than you'd think it would be. The locals, and then the smaller share go to the state, but
they give more money.
Yeah, the state's our biggest investor, and so based on when you do this through an economic input-output model, because of that, they're actually getting more tax revenues based on the investment that they've made. So that's the difference.
Okay,
and a lot of that is also B&O tax that we don't have really in the county. Unincorporated area, but the state still collects it.
And then I know that the EDB, it looks at Pierce County wide, and so let's say a business wants to relocate, and then the local jurisdiction will go in, and often they'll try to keep that business in the city or unincorporated area, and then oftentimes the EDB will try to do the support, but if that company ultimately says, hey, it's not helpful here, we'd like to move over to Tacoma or something. And then so because they have better transit access, or they have some of these other things that make it easier for us to build up. I think that is that a recurring challenge that, how do we keep a business in the county, but then sometimes it doesn't go where you necessarily want it to? From a planning perspective, let's say you have a good business in an unincorporated area, and it's really helpful to the unincorporated area for that business because it provides income and residuals. But then let's say that they're trying to move to Tacoma. Is the EDB's priority is just to keep them in the county, not necessarily in those areas where it's the most helpful? Or
yeah, part of it is actually trying to work out why they want to move. Are they expanding? Because sometimes they can't expand where they're at. They don't have the land or the facilities that they're able to expand into. So if they're looking for another place to expand into, we do based on their site criteria. If we are the lead on this, we do a site selection search. So we're out there looking for the criteria that they're looking for, and then we work with the brokers to sort of put together a list of viable properties for them, and then they'll make the decision themselves as to which one makes the most sense based on their business needs. We want to keep them in Pierce County. Obviously, if we can keep them where they're at, then that's actually cheaper for them and it's better for everyone. But I don't want to lose them to somewhere else. So, yeah, our priority is to keep them where they are. But if that is not possible, the next priority is to keep them in Pierce County.
Because I know sometimes, you come from a jurisdiction, let's say hypothetical Fife, and then, business says, oh, we want to relocate over to Lakewood. Nothing is Lakewood. But it's like, sometimes it's like, well, it really was helpful to the local economy and helping, but then it's the competition, and the EDB kind of is the forum for relocate, supporting those decisions.
We do, in addition to the four of us, we have a strong relationship with all of our cities and towns. So if they get either if a leads come to them, and we can use the example of Top Golf that was coming to Tacoma. Tacoma worked it for a really long time, and they just couldn't make it work. They called us. We found out what the company wanted, and actually the alignment in that case, they couldn't find anything in Fife, but Puyallup was where they wanted. Or like REI was who we were working with. We went then to the EDB, and that was when they were going to do satellite headquarters, and then that all went away during the pandemic. But EDB then had every city in town that had anything that could align based on the company's pieces. In that case, we knew who the company was. And they put it together, and EDB did then tours of every one of the cities that got screened in, so there's 7 or 8, and then it went down to the whole piece. So, but we have other cases of businesses that when they have to leave or move somewhere, then they call us, and then we try to figure out how either the EDB or whether we just pick up the phone and call Lakewood or pick up the phone and call Fife to say this kind of company wants to be in your area. And if Fife can't make it work or Lakewood can't make it work, we ask them to let us know so we can figure out if there's somewhere else for them to go.
Okay.
I'll just add really quickly to what Michael said. Businesses don't get excited about moving. It's expensive and it takes a lot. And so, doing those initial conversations and understanding, critically why, and if possible, keeping them in that location, that's, I think, usually what's in the best interest for the business, because businesses don't get excited about, having to pay to move, right? Like I said, it's a huge additional cost. And so, again, appreciate, Michael reiterating that if the reason is such that they have to move, then absolutely we work collectively, as Betty said, to keep them in Pierce County.
Okay.
And if it's a business in Fife, and they reach out to us to look for a new location, the first thing we do is contact the City of Fife, and then we start working together on that, whether they take the lead and we're in an assisting role, or whether let's say you take the lead and they'll assist. We don't do these things on our own. If it's in Fife, then we'll work with the city. If it's in unincorporated Pierce County, we work with the county. So we make sure that we have representatives from that area on any team.
Thanks, Michael. And Andrew, these are your questions. So I noticed that on the top 5 business member locations on the chart, they're all incorporated cities. It just happened to work out that way?
Yeah, I think it does just happen to work out that way. We do have a number of businesses in unincorporated Pierce County, but when we're looking at, again, where are those top employers, where are those top, business, industry sectors, especially for, local business and how local business cluster, that is where they are located.
And I'll throw a softball for you. So it seems like on the national scale that there is a about-face on DEI policies and
softball, Brian.
DEI policies and things like that. What's the chamber, the Pierce County Tacoma Chamber? How are you handling the possibility of those impacts, potential impacts?
Yeah, I do. I appreciate that question. Definitely. I think it should be a softball question, because when we are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and we're talking about how it relates and connects to our local business community, our local businesses exist to provide solutions to customers. And when we are providing advice and technical assistance for, how do you provide more solutions to more customers? How do you become, more profitable? The diversity of thought, the diversity of experience that companies have on their team and in their approach to the work is critical to ensuring, increased, profitability. And so as we continue to, I think, navigate and continue to navigate dynamic, market forces, political forces, we remain laser focused on providing solutions to businesses to help them to connect and grow their business. And that is, where we continue to emphasize the importance of connecting to and supporting, more opportunities for diversity of all work and all thought. That's, again, businesses connect solutions to customers. The more diversity of thought and experience in that approach, the more profitable the business can and will be.
Okay, and for the members of the panel, I'll just throw the last one. So we're talking about often like attracting more tech and some of these new industries to the area, which sometimes is a boon for the whatever available housing, but we're having issues in keeping up with building enough housing to handle some of these increases. But then, is there something that when government is like saying, hey, we're going to try to incentivize more building housing stock, what can those private business or companies do to help put more skin in the game in us increasing the stocks, availability of more workers, and then how can because oftentimes they'll displace, some people will be displaced, and so how do we keep those people from totally having to move out of the county, which will still need some of that workforce to come in and run our small businesses and do the work that is kind of not directly tech, but restaurants and care and those other industries.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a stab at that, and then we could be here for 8 hours talking about how displacement is an unintended consequence of development, and how we can form programs and policies and initiatives that are public-private partnership to guard against displacement. Again, having worked previously in the Seattle area before I came here, there are some, and I was part of some interesting, pilot projects for guarding against displacement. And so I appreciate you focusing in on housing and residential stock, because yes, that's a key component to it. And we do know that we need more housing, all housing types. 38% of our members actually cite the lack of accessible housing as one of the reasons why they are not able to grow their business, because it's about attracting and retaining talent, right? And so we know that is paramount. Equally paramount is guarding against displacement, for small businesses. And so I would encourage us to think proactively about ensuring that development doesn't just happen to us, but it actually happens for us. And we can, again, work collaboratively and in partnership to develop programs, to develop initiatives and policies that help guard against displacement, which is absolutely an unintended consequence of development. And there are ways that we can continue to grow and diversify our local economy and still maintain a community where there is a focus of allowing and continuing to support the businesses and the people that have called Pierce County home for generations.
So many of those people, I think, are what makes Pierce County Pierce County. And so if we don't do enough, then it seems that we would just become our cousins to the north.
Yeah, and I think we have almost 100,000 people who work up in King County. A lot of them are working in tech. There's no reason why those businesses coming in wouldn't hire the ones that already live locally. We have the talent here.
Correct.
We just don't have the businesses to employ them. That's why they're working in other places yet. But so if we can bring those businesses in, they have a ready talent pool, plus graduates coming out of UW, out of the JBLM. A lot of people with that sort of experience want to live here, but if there's not the work here, they'll live here and they'll work somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Our job's to get them the jobs where they can live, where they work, where they live.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Eric, do you want to add anything to conversation?
No, I'll pass.
Okay, thank you. Committee Member Herrera.
Thank you, Chair. This is great. This is good stuff. A lot of information, tons of questions. I'm going to narrow it down to just a couple. We talked about the advantages or disadvantages of doing business here in Washington State, but in Washington State we have a couple examples of great economic growth. One of them, and others that didn't do so well. I'll name them out. One of them is Aberdeen, not doing so well. Didn't shift. Used to be a bustling city at one point, and not so today. But then you have Bellevue. I'm old enough to remember when Bellevue was just kind of a sleepy town, even before the Bellevue Square was built. That's how old I am. But I saw how that city had a vision, had the political will, had probably proactive chambers and all these people to attract businesses, and they made it to what it is today. Maybe it's apples and oranges. I'm not too sure, but what is the vision for Pierce County? Because it seemed like it was really crystal clear there, and in 25 years, 30 years, it happened. And I'll ask that question right there. What is the long strategic vision for Pierce County, for all our cities? What is Pierce County? What do we want to be?
I'll take a shot at that just because.
Sure, and then I'll
throw
you. Bellevue wasn't quite as. I'll tell you about how that happened.
We're getting ready to work on our next work plan. We've had a draft. We went out to our investors and asked them, here's the work plan. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What are some of the issues that you're having or concerns? And one of the concerns that came out quite more than I would have expected was, well, what's the vision? What's the vision for Pierce County? Where's the vision for development and growth? And where does the county want to go? And the county, not the organization, but the county itself. And so one of the things we're going to be looking at is, I think there is a vision. It's in all the different comp plans that are being done. There's not one vision, but I think if you took out all the commonalities of all the comp plans of the cities and the county, I think what you're going to find is that vision. And I think it's not going to be that much different across the county. There's variations depending on where you are. But I think one of the things that we're going to be doing is actually going through the comp plans and actually trying to articulate a larger vision of the county based on the visions that are already there. But that is a question people are asking. What is that vision? Where is it? Who's responsible for putting it together? And I think each community's been responsible for it, for their community. But I think we can actually pull out a common vision from the work that's already been done.
And I would echo Michael's comment. I did want to comment a little bit on Bellevue since I was there for 17 years at the chamber. And really at the time, you could throw a bowling ball through town in 2000. It had the tech bomb. But it was a simple move of, it sounds simple, but it was complicated, to get, at the time, Bill Gates to say, instead of using their shuttle, an elevator could be the shuttle, and Microsoft coming downtown. That was the first part of that. So when I first came here, that was a big piece that Chair Young at the time had said, how do you get tech to come to Pierce County? Mm-hmm. But we looked at the portfolio of inventory. There really is not a lot of Class A office. You have it in Puyallup with Ben Arroyo's. We didn't have the right office mix of what the tech companies wanted. So we were looking at, can we figure something out? And then the pandemic came, and then things kind of shuffled the deck of real estate, and the gap was always so big. We had a few developers pencil it. It was such a big gap to make that happen. So I think from hearing from the comp plans and what's the secret sauce, then we figure out how you bring them in. So in the case, it's just figuring out what's that secret sauce.
I'll just add, and I really appreciate that question, Councilmember Herrera. Vision is, and connected directly to momentum, which is consistency over time. And so that does mean that, yes, across jurisdictions, across organizations, we do need to have that co-creation of what that vision is. And it does take time. We're talking, 10, 20, 30 years, for what that is. Thank you so much, Councilmember Morell, talking about, what are those challenges? Again, we say it all the time when we meet together. Challenges are opportunities. When we are able to approach them with collaboration and partnership. And when we are talking about, and Eric mentioned this, that affordable, clean, carbon-free power is directly connected to new emerging industries and technology with AI and quantum computing. We have some of that tech infrastructure already here in the county. There's huge opportunity there. And so I think as we continue to think about, and again, diversifying our economy, that's how, we do not become Aberdeen, right? When there's one industry, when, there's one factory town, that is, economic development suicide. It is not a recipe for success. And so as we continue to work all together in forming what the strong economic ecosystem is for Pierce County, as well as, supporting, diversifying our economy, I think that's what will lead to our future success. And that's what will help, build the vision and the foundation that will, span, generations for, when my kids are here. Yeah.
Thank you. Chair, one more question. One more
quick, concise question.
Quick,
We can
concise.
try to be more concise here, sorry.
Thank you very much. And it has to do with our small businesses. You talked about it's 85% here in Pierce County, and a lot of those depend on big companies. They're kind of like the feeders of that. I heard a term from our hospitals. They have anchor strategies, meaning that they hire locally, they purchase and procure locally. I just saw a economic impact study on defense spending here in Washington State is like $27 billion. On the procurement alone, from the 5 or 6 bases, it's $7.3 billion. I don't know if this is out of your scope, but does JBLM have an anchor strategy where they buy locally here in Pierce County? I mean, we're talking probably $1 billion in the procurement for just JBLM. That's probably like a federal level, but I mean, we need to be talking to and if that does happen, or if it doesn't, maybe we can help inch that along, because that will directly help our small businesses grow and be consistent. So
Absolutely.
A question on that.
Yeah, so really quickly, so one of the programs we run at the Chamber is Military Affairs, and a big focus of our annual trip to DC, 39th year this year, Wattawa, is about how do we connect and support JBLM and draw those connections with our local business community. And so that work does happen, talking to, base commander, right? It's mission, it's people, it's community. And so absolutely the base is focused on investing in community and doing what we can, to help support that at home. Technical assistance, again, not everyone, if small business is set up to be a, military contractor. And so as we continue to provide those technical assistance and support so that more small businesses can take advantage of some of those defense contracts, that will also help to ensure that more of that money stays here within Pierce County, and there's less of that leakage that Michael talked about earlier.
And that's why one of our navigators is APEC, that helps businesses get on those lists with the federal government.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And then, Eric, did you want to add anything to the JBLM discussion?
No, only to, I will assure you that we have close communications with JBLM on the logistics side. Obviously, I mentioned that earlier in my presentation. We meet with them all the time. We compare infrastructure needs and notes with them. And we're always working to make sure that we've got the service that they need to continue to grow and thrive here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ayala.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of the questions that I had on my list have been asked, so I'm going to skip over those. I will share, I'm very curious about a lot of these data points, so I'll individually reach out to you because it might be a little more complicated. But I did want to ask, and I appreciate the framing that this team put around challenges and them being opportunities. And I'm wondering if you were to forecast in the next, let's say, 5 years, what are some of those low-hanging fruits that that are currently challenges, but you really see that can be accomplished in the next 5 years to help support thriving communities across Pierce County?
Well, I might start with telling our story better. So I think, as Michael had said, being more active in going out and targeting and bringing people in, but telling our story, because we are really a good kept secret, and trying to get some headlines to change, because once headlines change, then people take note, and so I think that's a key piece, is telling our story.
I think, again, just piggybacking off of that, it's when we don't tell our story, when we don't own our story, then other people tell our story for us. And so, so much of the work that we're doing for business attraction, once businesses who have not been to Pierce County see Pierce County and see the opportunity, they are sold, right? But it's getting over that, perception sometimes, and how we are able to tell our story, be more active and proactive with telling our story, ensures that, quite frankly, there's not the other noise coming from the outside with other people telling our story for us.
Yeah, and Betty and I have been having this conversation for 6 years now, and it's marketing, marketing, marketing. If people don't know you exist,
you don't exist.
You're not on the list, right? So as a lot of people don't even know where Washington is, let alone Tacoma. Some people may know where Seattle is, but really on a global level, on a national level, international level, we're relatively unknown. And we know what a great place this is to live and work and do business, but we're not telling anyone else. So I think that we have different audiences, right? So there's talent that we want to attract, there's businesses, and there's different types of businesses. We need to formulate marketing strategies that work to each one. I think that's low-hanging fruit. It's just something we don't do. Washington doesn't do it. Other economic development organizations in the state don't do it. I don't know why everyone's adverse to marketing. It's telling your story and trying to enhance the work that you're doing. So I think that's a really easy thing for us to do.
Thank you. Eric, do you want to comment on that?
I will just add something different. I agree with the comments that they just made, but one of the big challenges that we have at the port is cleaning up contaminated property. A large amount of the property in the tide flats was contaminated, not by us. We bought it after somebody else contaminated it. But these cleanups take forever. They cost a lot of money. And getting those things sped up has been a real priority of mine. We're succeeding in some of those areas. But what I've discovered is if you get clean, flat property in the tide flats, you don't have to market it. The phone rings off the hook. And so I'm focused on getting that inventory of developable land in place. I'm hoping to have a piece of great news to unveil in the next couple of months regarding a large business that we hope is going to locate here. I can't say who it is yet, but I've got very high hopes. But the key to that was getting a piece of property cleaned up. So having land in the cupboard to market is important. So I'll stop there.
Okay.
Could I just quickly add, tracking the flow of change at the federal level is going to be key in being able to understand where the trends will go, right? And being able to then address, sort of attack those trends. Right now, it's, everything's happening. We're all looking at all the shiny things that are happening. I think once we can get an idea of where that flow of change is happening, then we can start to look at what those opportunities are for us.
Thank you.
Okay. Committee Member Denson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks to all the questions that have gone before. We spent a lot of time, and I appreciate all the conversation about being really proactive and not just letting things happen to us, but identifying the key industries, what we want, who we want to be, how we want Pierce County to look, the kind of jobs we want to have, the environmental impacts, all of that. Appreciate all of that. I think what I haven't heard yet, and maybe it's part of the planning to come, is the boots on the ground strategies for what we're actually doing to accomplish that. So we've got some key industries identified, and I understand absolutely the part about retaining and building the businesses we have, but I'm most interested right now in recruiting the businesses that we want to have. So I think particularly for you, Michael, and maybe Betty, and I know the port is doing this as well, and I think, as an aside, I think the port is a key advantage that we have. We may not be able to provide some of the incentives that the other states have, but not all of the states have a huge deep water port right here. So they're a great partner. So what are we doing? Are we going to trade shows? Are we looking at similar communities, maybe with lesser ports, or communities with businesses that could take advantage of the unique attributes that we have? Are we going after these companies? How does that work?
So traditionally, I think the EDB has been more on the reactive side, waiting for those requests to come in.
Yeah.
They either come into us directly by a phone call or an email. We get the RFI requests from Commerce. Indirectly, someone will call the City of Tacoma, and the City of Tacoma will call the EDB. There's a sort of, we wait for the phone to ring or the email to come. One of the things that I spoke to the board about when I was interviewing is that we need to continue to do that, but we really need to be proactive. And so I'm in the work plan that I've drafted for the next 5 years. It really is about going to trade shows like Select USA, Hannover Messe in Germany, going to the Farnborough Air Show in England, Paris Air Show, and other trade shows where we can actually get the word out. Mm-hmm. That takes money, of course, to do that sort of thing. So we're looking at opportunities to share the costs on that in doing that, because it's critical. We've been working with Greater Seattle Partners the last 3 years to bring 29 companies here to Tacoma, Pierce County, have them here for the day, let them talk to CEOs of people, of existing companies, take them for tours of critical assets that we have, like the Clover Park Advanced Manufacturing Facility, the university, UWT, and making sure that we have this group that we can showcase Tacoma, Pierce County, and show them why they should be doing business here. And we have them on the ground. It's not a virtual visit. They're here. Yeah. And we get to spend the day with them. And the last 2 years have been really successful in terms of us getting to get our game better than what it has been. We didn't do it very well the first year. We did some great stuff. We learned a lot. We learned a lot more last year, and we're getting ready to do it again May 8th this year. So there's going to be another 20 to 30 companies who will be here on the ground for the day. So there are opportunities for us to continue to be proactive, and we're going to continue to look at them. And so traditionally they've been what we've been doing, but I think there are other opportunities that we haven't taken up and we haven't fully explored. So that will be coming.
I'm glad to hear that you're working together and being aggressive about this so that we get the best companies here, because we do deserve the best companies here.
And so maybe along that line, Councilmember Denson, I remember you said this last year when we launched the Pivot campaign, Pivot to Pierce, and we had done a lot of work internally on things, and it's almost that pebble in the pond approach. So now we're extending some of that reach into some of those areas. So in the last few months, we've done digital advertising in 425 Business Magazine, GeekWire. These are the online platforms trying to go to the companies that we're looking at, making sure they know us. We've done a lot of the industry sponsorships with Aerospace, Green Hydrogen Summit, Sustainability Awards, Clean Tech, Aerospace Futures Alignment, Center for Advanced Manufacturing. So really focusing on that. But this is just hot off the press. So we decided to do a little bit on LinkedIn. And so we actually had, over a period of time, and it wasn't very much money, so we had almost 1,100 website visits we had 213,000 impressions. So we had almost of those 1,100, 1,200 visits or clicks. Now we have to figure out how do we go capture them. But when we looked at the demographics of the people that were clicking on us, they're the people that we want to click on us.
Right.
So that's just the beginning of the approach that then strategically we'll work together to figure out then how do we go to the next level to see, can we have someone come down and take a tour? How can we go to the next pieces there?
And I'll just add really quickly again, so part of, the signature events that we host, the Horizons Economic Forecast, the Aspire Intercity Leadership Conference that we do is all about, attracting and then also, going after, the businesses and building those relationships, with people that we want to come and do business here in Pierce County. So I think collectively we're doing all of that. Individually, our organizations, as you said, the chamber isn't going to the, air show. The chamber doesn't have a booth at the air show, but we participate, we help support, and some of the other signature events and activities that we do and we provide are absolutely about, connecting and convening opportunities for that business attraction piece.
Awesome. And I definitely recommend tours in September when it's not February.
Love bringing people to downtown Tacoma when there's the farmers market, right? So yeah, absolutely.
When the mountain's out.
Yeah.
Oh my, look at this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. And, Committee Member Denson is more than willing to take you on her best hikes. So I think there again, the quality of life issue here in the Northwest is just something that we need to capture and work with. And I will just kind of end up some of the comments. I would like for all four of you at some point to get together and kind of draft up maybe your 3 takeaways that we could help with. I've gone to the manufacturing shows, I've gone to the air shows. It is somewhat disheartening to know that you're following Alabama, North Carolina, and Tennessee. When we go in there, we have to offer a lifestyle, a workforce. We don't have hundreds of acres of lands. We don't have manufacturing buildings up and ready to go. We don't have a regulatory system that is streamlined. And, everything is shovel ready. We have challenges in the state due to our Constitution, but there again, with each challenge, as you said, Andrea, there's opportunities, and we can't change that as a county. So the other thing that in going with Betty to some of these air shows, when we're talking about international companies, their culture, learning the culture, they want to enter into negotiations right away. What are you going to get? What are you going to give me? I remember the one the last air show was Turkey. That's how we tried to get them to talk about what they wanted. They wanted to negotiate right there on the spot.
3 Turkish companies. That wasn't just one.
Yeah, so, and the other aspect that I do want to talk about that I find over and over again is sometimes the entry into the area is buying an existing business. So, understanding there again, our businesses, some of them are aging out, the families want to retire. We need to have that inventory listed, and I know that you work with brokers. They're definitely part of this, real estate brokers, and just kind of understanding, because even like I say, if we can have a manufacturer that, okay, they don't want to spend another $50 million to expand, but they would like to take on a partner that has the capital to do it. I mean, that's a great opportunity to expand. Now, on the other side, they also can absorb the company and move it somewhere else. But there again, we won't talk about that. But, I think there again, we have a lot of opportunities here. We just need to get on the same page, have the same vision, all of our cities marching together to try and sell Pierce County, because I think there again, we have that opportunity. My concern is every list that I get, every survey I get is overregulated, overtaxed. And I know companies complain about that all the time, but that is a real issue. My challenge that I have is capital is mobile. Mm-hmm. It can move to any state it wants. And a lot of times Washington isn't at the top of the list. So I just want to make sure that everyone in this committee understands that capital is mobile. Why do I need to invest here versus Tennessee, North Carolina, New Mexico? So that's a huge thing that I hear from my business community. So with that, I appreciate your time, your effort, your energy, your team members that you brought, your posse, to help answer any questions that this committee may have. And hopefully it'll generate more of a conversation on how we can partner with your teams out there, and then develop a cohesive, I think if anything, definitely one of the themes, I guess, is, pivot to Pierce, but also what's our secret sauce. Everyone's kind of talked about that. So thank you. Thank you, Eric, for making time available.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
And, we're all on pins and needles since you, left us with, I got this big company moving in, but I can't tell you comment.
Yeah.
So
I will. I hope to be back before you with a big success story soon.
Okay, I appreciate that. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Erica Rett-Hunt, and anything you want to close with.
Only thing to close with is that our next meeting will be on March 11th, and we are working hard to bring you another panel about electricity needs and availability for Pierce County looking out to the future. So.
Okay. That will be an interesting discussion, and we're bringing in both large utilities and small PUDs to have a discussion, because there again, based on the in-district meeting that we had, some of our major developers were really concerned that they were getting rationed in their power allocations to their facilities, thus couldn't build the infrastructure that they wanted. So that will be another panel discussion. So if you have any questions or want to make any comments, please either participate, listen in, or get your questions to us. So Council Member Herrera, or Committee Member Herrera, can ask them. So. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, meeting's adjourned.